So today, Bill especially, but me too, wants to talk about brain health. And being 81, almost 82, I feel so clear and I feel that my brain is really healthy. And I enjoy so much what it does for me every day.
What I like about Connie and her brain is just how she's opening more and more to being present. And that's a real brain function. And there's just so much joy and happiness in her. And that to me is a real sign of a healthy brain. So, yeah, this week we want to continue this kind of series at looking at um, different parts of the body and our physiology and what does it mean. So last week we did heart health. And so this week it's like brain health. So just to start, it's like looking at what does the brain do, it does so much.
Yeah.
It's like it controls all the body functions, our movement, our breathing, our heartbeat, digestion, and almost all of this occurs automatically and unconscious. It's like 80% of our brain activity is supporting our body's regulation, watching our high blood pressure, our blood sugar levels, our breathing, our oxygen levels, coordination, and survival. It's on 24/7. It's just so amazing. It's like the heart, it never sleeps. It's always going. It's always there supporting us. Has such a big job and it does so much. So like even when we're resting, the brain is managing millions of body processes every second. Our digestion, our immune system, hormone levels, all that stuff. So yeah, like I say, like the heart, it never sleeps. So that's the body function. That's what's going on, but most of that's automatic and completely unconscious. What we're more aware of is that whole thing about processing information or thinking and figuring things out. It stores information, it stores memories, and we rely on those to be able to navigate life well. And of course, it's the big problem solver. Figure it out. I can figure this out. I'm going to do that. And one other thing that the brain is involved in that we feel is such an important aspect of our lives is it's like the brain is our connection to that deeper awareness, to the consciousness. It's like the portal through which we can be aware of who we really are. Because this body is amazing, but we're not our body. I can lose a finger and that doesn't affect who I am.
Yeah.
Who I am is very different from this physical body, but we need this physical body to be aware of who we are. So that to us is an amazing function that the brain also affords, is this connection to consciousness, to the awareness that we really are.
And who we really are, the way we can know that in a moment is it's when we feel deep love or joy or peace. That's our nature. That's our basic blueprint. And it's always available and we're always tuning into it. We just don't often recognize that we're tuning in.
Yeah, so often it seems like we're just on automatic with all that too. It's our wisdom, it's our inner intelligence that is directing so much what we're relying on, but we're up here in this conscious thinking mind and the narrator that's in that brain kind of giving a blow by blow of what we think is happening and why they did this and what I should do there. All that narration kind of, it's like clouds in the sky. It can kind of cloud the blue sky, but the blue sky is always there. Who we are, this love, this joy, this peace that we are in our essence is always there. But our brain activity can sometimes create a
Cloud
lot of
it.
thinking, creating a lot of clouds, yeah. So the basic benefits of a healthy brain are what Connie's talking about, this clear thinking, having a sharp memory, having good judgment, good common sense. And a healthy brain provides us with a sense of emotional stability and resilience.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Resilience is so important. Like life happens. How quickly do we move into who we are?
yeah,
Or do we stay in the thinking of the event?
yeah, it's important that the brain be healthy. So it's also responsible for our coordination and motor skills. So a healthy brain keeps us, I mean, we have access to that greater coordination and motor skill. And so it also lowers the risk of depression, anxiety and dementia. Those are all signs of, or at least an unhealthy brain has a greater tendency toward depression and anxiety and dementia. We're going to talk about how we can ensure that our brains stay healthy in a little bit, but just in terms of the common benefits of a healthy brain, there's that healthy brains are less depressed. And there's a greater sense of presence and vitality, just what we've been pointing to in terms of connecting with our deepest consciousness, our essence. There's a sense of presence and joy, and life is good. Life has our back, and this is good. So, what are some of the common brain conditions? We talked last week about the different major conditions that affect heart health. Brain-related conditions are the main thing on so many people's minds is cognitive decline. So that's basically age-related memory loss, dementia, Alzheimer's, this where we start to just not be able to remember things as well, and get things kind of turned around, confusion, that cognitive decline that seems to come with age for so many people, and yet it doesn't come for everybody. So we know it's not just age related, there are other factors. Stroke is the other really big brain condition, and that is basically due to a blocked or ruptured artery. So there's that physiological connection to stroke. So if we can deal with healthy circulation, healthy blood vessels, then that's going to help with that. And so, like we said, depression and anxiety are common brain-related conditions. Parkinson's is a brain condition. And I guess just the general category of brain fog. Some people just seem to be walking around in a fog, that they don't have that mental clarity. I guess it's the opposite of what we were saying. The sign of a healthy brain is that mental clarity and vitality. And it's like some people that they're just not there. So these are the common brain-related conditions that we want to look at. And one thing that science is showing us that seems to be at the cause, because we don't want to just manage it. There's a lot of medications out there to deal with trying to prevent stroke and trying to deal with depression and anxiety. And they're playing with Alzheimer's medications now and those kinds of things. But again, all of those are trying to manage a condition and not deal with root cause. Because we see that some people, they're clear right into their last day of their lives. And others, boy, they lost it decades ago. What is it? So if we want to look at what Connie and I always want to look at, root cause, how can we really address the root cause? One of the main root causes of all the different conditions is inflammation. Science is really showing that an inflamed brain is having problems up there on a lot of different levels. And that seems to be poor nutrition. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. The other thing that's showing up that's affecting brain functioning are toxins. We're exposed to so many environmental toxins now. We've got herbicides, pesticides from the food we eat, or even in the air we breathe and the water we drink. Like, we're all organic, and we really try to avoid eating foods that would have herbicides and pesticides on them, but they are showing that, like glyphosate, is that how you say it? Glyphosate, the Roundup herbicide, is so prevalent that it's up in the air and it's raining down, and it's affected all of our water systems. There's glyphosate in all of our water systems. So we have an RO system to reverse osmosis and give us good, clear water, but we are exposed to so many toxins that are affecting the brain. Another new one that's kind of new, I guess it's been around a long time, affecting the brain, but they're showing this relationship to microplastics.
Yes.
Well, the plastics that we've been using for so long, they break down in these tiny, tiny little pieces of plastic you can't even see, but it gets in our system because we put things in plastic, and then some of the plastic goes into the food or the water or the drink, whatever it is. It's in our system, goes up in our brains. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we've got these different things. And plastics and heavy metals have been recognized for a long time to influence brain function as well. So I guess the last two things to mention too are chronic stress, just overworking that poor thing, and a lack of movement and poor sleep. Those seem to be the main root causes.
Well, my interest is what heals
Yeah.
and supports the brain to really be healthy. And of course, it's always what we're talking about, whole food, plant-based. Now the data is in, there's no question that it makes all the difference in terms of our health and in terms of not having chronic conditions. So we want to eat foods that are high in antioxidants, high in fiber, have lots of omega-3s. And the omega-3s come from flax, chia, hemp hearts, and walnuts. And we want to get lots of polyphenols from berries and the dark leafy greens that we love. And turmeric also is great.
Yeah, they've been showing a real link to that. And it's great. Dr. Dean Ornish now, who back in the 80s kind of pioneered this new approach to dealing with heart disease with whole food plant-based. And he's now, when he started doing this, everybody was saying you cannot reverse heart disease.
Yes.
And he and so many other doctors now, and so much scientific research now is showing you can reverse heart disease. So it's not a matter of just having to try to prevent it from day one. It can be reversed. He's doing research now on whole food plant-based diets and lifestyle and reversing Alzheimer's. So he's got some very exciting research that's showing an influence of being able to reverse the effects of Alzheimer's with a whole food plant-based diet, because, like Connie's saying, it's so high, rich in the antioxidants. It's anti-inflammatory, so it takes the inflammation out of the brain, out of the body. It's got all the great polyphenols in it that it makes all the difference.
Yeah, and we want to move. Like, we've been doing lots of walks at night in this beautiful weather and enjoying that. But I exercise 2 hours a day, and I get lots of wonderful movement. And Bill's been tracking his steps, and
Awesome.
we're seeing we can do more.
Yeah, it's a great encouragement when I see the link between movement and health. And I used to be very active and active in sports. So I was running a lot, playing squash, doing different things. And I've had some trouble with shoulder and knee stuff, and that's taken me off the court. And I am so surprised at how few steps I have been taking over the last months. So yeah, I've been watching that and paying attention to that, giving it more.
Yeah, you've
Look at
been
that.
doing much better.
Much better, yeah. So yeah, movement is really important. And it's through movement. What they're showing is that movement promotes what they call neurogenesis, the actual creation of new neurons in our brains. When I was growing up and when I was in college, I was pre-med and I had an interest in the brain. I thought I was going to be a brain surgeon. Maybe I am in a way. All this consciousness work, but it's a different part of the brain. Um, and back then in the 60s, it was thought that pretty much you get the neurons you get when you come in and that's it. But they're seeing now that we do generate new neurons and movement is very important in terms of how much neurogenesis is going on. So that's really good. And the neurogenesis and the movement, so it helps to improve memory and learning, and it boosts our mood
Yeah.
and our emotional resilience. So all this neurogenesis, getting new neurons, it protects against cognitive decline. So we really want to do whatever we can to promote the neurogenesis because that too is dealing with the root cause of these problems that we have. So aerobic exercise, whole food, plant-based diet, and also restorative sleep. So it's not like you just get sleep. You really want to get good sleep, 7 to 9 hours of good sleep, because that's where the body does a lot of healing, and we need a healthy, really rested mind to coordinate all that body detox and healing actually that occurs at night. Another thing that stimulates neurogenesis is learning new things and playing music.
Yeah, I'm learning a whole new way to play piano that is a more natural way, and I'm loving it. And I'm studying music theory as well. So I'm every day doing something to learn something new, which I really,
Yeah.
really enjoy.
Yeah, that's something about the two of us. We've always had a real interest in learning.
Yes.
So even at our age, um, I don't know, I still feel like this teenager that is just wanting to look, how does this work? How does that work? And a lot of that now is more in that area of the coaching that we do around how does our thinking work in terms of creating the experience that we have so that we help people kind of unwind some of the conditioned thinking that they've had for so long that has kept them in such a state of chronic stress. When we begin to see the nature of the mind, how life really works, who we really are, people begin to get a new paradigm in their lives that can really turn around this, a lot of problems that come up. We help people with relationships, not by giving them better skills in terms of relating, but showing them how we can view life and our partner so differently that the problem no longer exists. It's just like magic. It is so cool. So this learning new things, it's always something that's always been very active in our lives.
Yeah.
And we really love it. And it's good to find out that this promotes neurogenesis and neuroplasticity, creating new pathways in the brain. That helps keep a healthy brain.
Yeah, and then meditation and mindfulness, and I do almost 2 hours a day of meditation. That's something I've just begun doing, and I
Again,
enjoy
we
it.
used to do
Yeah,
it
we used
for
to do
20
it a
some
lot.
years. Yeah, yeah. And they're showing a lot of connection too with purpose, people having purpose, relationships, connecting in relationships, and how that really does something to help our minds stay healthy. And I really like that. I think the last thing to mention is our gut health. Again, this is also new. When I was going to college and looking at med school, it's like your gut was kind of a colon. It was just kind of this transit system to move the food through and out. And what we're seeing now is that there is this whole microbiome in there. There's this whole environment that when it's healthy, we're healthy. When it's not healthy, we're not healthy. And it has this direct link to the brain.
Yeah, that's
In fact,
amazing.
some of them call it the second brain.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, oh, I just have a gut feeling. Well, that's because it's like there's a brain there. So our gut health is really important too. So that again, what's the solution to poor gut health? Whole food plant-based diet.
yeah,
It's what
yeah.
they're showing is the way to go. So yeah, that's kind of our story on brain health. So, you know, brain health is so much more than just memory. It influences almost every aspect of our lives. So it's really worth giving it some attention.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so worth it. We love how we feel and how we view life, and every day is a wonderful experience.
Seems like there's a pretty healthy brain up there still.
Yeah. So the recipe is a wonderful creamy pasta primavera. And the creaminess is made from cashews, lemon, a little garlic, parsley, and cilantro. Really good. So give it a try, and I think you'll love it because it's chock full of veggies, mushrooms, peppers, broccoli, and cherry tomatoes.
Yeah, it's really good. That pasta sauce, that primavera sauce is different than one I've ever had before. And I think I like it better than anything I've ever had. It's very fresh. Yeah, really nice. Give it a try.
Thanks so much
Yeah.
for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
We'll be back next week. Bye-bye.